Hello, it is a pleasure as always to be here. Welcome back to the second paradigm. This is B. And today, we're going to be speaking a little bit about an awakening that's taking place. It's something that David and Miriam have been speaking about more in their own day-to-day experience, understanding more. David shot some video on it not so long ago, and Miriam has been speaking about it in her various podcasts, both public and private. This idea of a sort of generated awakening that's being maneuvered inside of the collective psychology. Now, there's elements of this that are more obvious. They're things that you're already seeing play out. And we're certainly speaking somewhat to that. An idea of increased awareness around corruption, an increased awareness around energetics, an increased awareness around some of the more scientific elements of spirituality, things that can be tested for, things that are well known. An understanding that there is some sort of ruling power, let's say, that may have been withholding some of that information for quite some time, right? There's this sort of conspiratorial awakening that's been taking place over the past 5, 10, 15 years, and for some even longer. But as of late, it's been interwoven more and more with a spiritual framework. Right? It's not just so conspiratorial. It's conspiratorial and spiritual. They are one and the same. The thing that is being withheld from people is an understanding of their power, let's say, or an understanding of their psychic abilities, their ability to tune in and to pull information and energy from seemingly thin air. Now, while there are many elements of this awakening that are genuine, there are also elements of this awakening that are pre-programmed, let's say, predetermined. And ultimately, there's more of an ideology here that's being disseminated over time than it is an organic awakening of your population. And this is what we want to zero in a little bit today, is this understanding that not all of the awakening that's happening right now is so grassroots. And not all of the things that are emerging inside of your collective psychology are ultimately helpful. And if you are, let's say, a soul that is light and wants nothing more than to work with God, to do light, to follow your real-time personal connection to true, genuine benevolence, the guiding force inside of reality that guides you perpetually to the ideal given the circumstances, right? If this way of being of yours is genuinely light, then this awakening runs counter to that paradigm of yours. This awakening that is becoming more and more popular isn't the same thing that you're doing. And this trajectory that God has you on is very different than the trajectory that the collective is sort of awakening to. Now, there are similar words here, and there are similar ideological frameworks here, but there is a very distinct divide that we want to start to illuminate to a greater degree. Now, zooming out a little bit, there is a feeling in the air of the systems of your world slowly breaking. There's a feeling in the air of economic collapse, of a restructuring of society where money and government don't look anything like they do today or have looked historically, a complete restructuring of your civilization that's part necessary because of collapse, because of tumultuous times, because of new problems that weren't around 10 years ago, because of artificial intelligence, let's say. There is this feeling in the air of the world as you know it coming to an end, a sort of Armageddon of sorts. And this feeling in the air has been around for quite some time. Seems to ebb and flow a little bit. There are times where it feels inevitable. There are times where it feels like there may be some other solutions, or maybe it won't play out just quite yet. But overall, it's a pretty consistent feeling that the trajectory that your civilization is on as a whole is leading to collapse. Yes, but not a collapse into dystopian hard times, complete anarchy, everything falls apart and everyone's on their own to restructure civilization in small groups. Those who have the guns and food win. Not that sort of world, but a collapse into something fundamentally new, still very much on the grand scale. A civilization transition, not a civilization collapse. And as you feel into some of the subtleties of this, especially if you have some of your psychic abilities, let's say, or if you can feel into the timelines energetically, as you scan out into the probable futures, what you find is a bit of confusion, right? Because there is this feeling of collapse, and you can feel inside of that coming reality. It's not fixed, it's not predetermined, but inside of that likely potentiality for the future, down that timeline, let's say, you can feel that while things are collapsing, a large majority of people are scared. That the uncertainty is destabilizing, terrifying for many. But if you keep going, there's not the complete feeling of destruction, death, collapse, extreme poverty and suffering that you might expect given how afraid people feel. Right? This is very nuanced because we're talking about a probability. This isn't real. It is a probability of the future. But when you go down this timeline, that sometimes feels more probable than other times, of this collapse where people are deathly scared, what you don't feel there is actual death and destruction. Maybe small hints of it. But mostly what you feel down this timeline is just fear. People are afraid because things are uncertain. Now again, this is nuanced because we're not predicting the future here. Because the future is never predetermined. But there is a timeline and you can feel it just as clearly as we can describe it. And it is the future that people are terrified of today. Where there is some degree of collapse, a lot of uncertainty. There are collective problems. What do we do about the money? What do we do about making sure that everyone's taken care of? Because the system as it has existed doesn't seem to be taking care of the large majority of people in the way that it used to. There's an ever-increasing population of people that are marginalized outside of the safety and security of this current system. And at some point, there's a tipping point where the majority of people aren't taken care of, and that sort of system can't continue to exist. You can feel these threads sort of looming in the air. And again, it's not a prediction because it's not a predetermined future, but there is a probability, there is a timeline, a probable future where this sort of collapse and uncertainty is about all everyone's feeling. It is the main thing that is up for people. It is very obvious what's happening. It is very obvious that things are destabilizing, and it is not obvious in any way, shape, or form that there's a solution. Now, for the large majority of the population inside of this timeline, they see uncertainty. They are unsure how they will continue to be okay, how their family will continue to be okay, how to contribute to the world. They don't completely understand the solutions that are being thrown around. Technology, AI, universal basic income. So they are uncertain until they aren't, until there is some degree of certainty that is presented to them that then gives them that certain safety and security into the future. Until that box is checked, they are uncertain, they are scared. But there is a subset of the population that doesn't look at reality as something that's happening to them. And they're a little bit more okay with some uncertainty because there's an understanding that they have a part that they can play, meaning they can engage with reality in an entrepreneurial fashion or as a leader, as a voice of reason, and they can rally people around an idea and create something here, right? There are individuals who recognize that they have the ability to have an impact on the world around them and to shape the world around them. And in that sort of transitionary period, these people are more so thinking, trying to adapt to the new system, trying to find their role of what they can create inside of that new world. And for many of these people, there's a sort of predetermined spiritual awakening that is by design supposed to happen. Now, we don't mean that God has predetermined that it would be ideal for these people to have a spiritual awakening. We mean that the trajectory of your civilization as defined by darkness here in this world the beings, councils, that are designing this trajectory have taken into consideration the individuals that are more entrepreneurial, that recognize that the world is malleable, that aren't just along for the ride, and they've determined that in this transitionary period it is important for there to be a spiritual component to this. And this spirituality is not how to unlock, acknowledge, refine a real-time personal connection to God, the organizational force that is light. It is not that in any way, shape, or form. It's very much a solo project of what good can I create given my aptitudes here in this world, given the circumstances. It's very much, how do I utilize spirituality to bring my will into physical manifestation? And this is an element of spirituality that is only gaining more and more popularity. We can call it manifestation, but at the end of the day, it is, I have a vision for the world. I have my own desires of the life that I wish to live and the experience that I wish to have, and there is a pathway to that reality, and it's not all cognitive. The best path there is not cognitive. The best pathway there is feeling into the actual timelines of the future, using psychic abilities and pulling that future to you by tracing what you could call the vibrational frequency of that timeline, doing everything you can to ensure the future of your preference. This is the awakening that will only continue to happen more and more and more, especially to the more entrepreneurial types, to those that are creating their own reality because they recognize that reality and civilization doesn't need to only happen to them. That they have the ability to shape things here just as much as anyone else does, right? For these individuals, there is a pre-planned awakening. Now, this awakening looks very similar to New Age spirituality. Very similar. But in all likelihood, the words are different. And it's not quite as fringe. It's not quite as woo. It's not quite as out there. It is backed by the data. It is backed by science. It is a proven fact. That your thoughts and your emotions and your psychic abilities have a part in the experience that you're having and can be utilized to shape the experience that you're having or to guide the experience that you're having in the direction of your preference. Again, this is true, but this is a very different awakening than recognizing that you have a real-time personal connection to God, learning to refine that connection, and to be guided to the actual purpose of your soul existing here. To be guided to the actual essence of your soul, unmodified by the world around you. Now, if we look at internally, the internal experience, those feelings of hollowness, the lack of purpose and meaning, that pocket of existential dread is the experience of working against your own soul connected to your real-time personal connection to God. And the experience of purpose, meaning, is the experience of working with your real-time personal connection to God. It is the thing that you experience as rightness. It is the thing that everyone experiences as rightness. Now, not everyone would understand what we mean by that because there's too much baggage on top of it. But the purest connection of your soul to God, being guided in your day-to-day experience through a larger orchestration, given your circumstances, here is the guidance that leads you into the ideal, the best possible next step given your circumstances, given who you are, given the world around you. Everything we're talking about here at the second paradigm has to do with that real-time personal connection to God. Your one-to-one connection to your soul, first of all, but ultimately to higher benevolent wisdom. The awakening that is being pre-planned, that is already pre-planned, and that takes place down that timeline that you can feel looming, is a fundamentally different thing. And we want to start to draw this separation here, not just to say that what we're doing here at the second paradigm and what David and Miriam are doing here at the second paradigm is so fundamentally different from so much of spirituality. Not just that, but to draw a line between these two very distinct pathways. Because there is a subset of the population that is certain to be guided towards reality creation. They are going to build a world that is of their own, in quotes, their own design, that is good, that's beneficial for everyone. And they are going to feel as though they're using their soul's gifts, their spirituality, to build a better world for everyone. That is the desired internal experience of this collective re-education. And it has been deemed maybe not completely necessary, but beneficial for the creators, for that subset of the population that are creators, where reality is not happening to them, to have this spiritual awakening. To awaken into building what is good, as is ultimately predefined by darkness. Using their psychic abilities to read the blueprint of the thing that darkness has been trying to build here for a very long time now. Now, these individuals would never consent to building darkness's world for them. And in their heart of hearts, they will certainly believe that they are doing good. And from darkness's perspective, they are doing good. Because from darkness's perspective, building what is good has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with your real-time personal connection to that deepest rightness within you. To darkness, God is a psyop of itself. God is the enemy. God is the evil dictator. To darkness, you are helping to build a utopia. An awakening to that utopia, awakening to the capacity inside of you to download and work with that blueprint to bring about that collective reality in the same way as you might bring about your own individual reality of your preference. It is a skill set that has been deemed, if not necessary, beneficial to building that world. And so there will be an artificial awakening. And what will be disseminated is, one, the spiritual skill sets to be able to psychically trace a future and to feel the decisions that you can make right now to pull you to that reality. It will be all of the internal experience of that psychic phenomena, and it will be the desired outcome. It will be the actual thing that you are designed to trace. This is the world that we are building. It is good for everyone. We won't let evil take this world. We will build something that is good for everyone. This is that flavor of awakening by darkness. It is to build a utopia, to build something good. Now, when you come all the way back out of this timeline that we've been discussing, you find a greater and greater awareness around corruption. This is designed to create the psychological bedrock that all of that spiritual foundation will sit on later. This experience right now is designed to have people that are creators, that understand that reality isn't happening to them, that they have the ability to shape things around them, to have an impact on the world around them, to contribute to what is being built here. This experience right now, collectively, is by design and it is designed to build a repulsion with evil. To build a disgust for evil. And if you look around, that's what's happening and is being built right now. Why would you build this repulsion to evil? So that inevitably you were then called to build good, to do something about it. That end result is the thing that's trying to be architected here on your earth. Your civilization is supposed to be, by design, by darkness, building a utopia, coming together to build the best possible experience outside of your real-time personal connection to God. That's the point here. But how do you rally the troops? You show them evil and corruption so they have something to push off of. You disseminate the ability to shape your experience using your psychic abilities that have nothing to do with God. That's a very different type of spirituality. And when you gain the ability to build the world of your preference, and you recognize that you can have an impact on the world around you, that where reality isn't happening to you, you are happening to reality, and you are shown evil, you come together and rally around building the best possible good using your psychic abilities outside of your connection to God. Welcome to the end goal of darkness. This awakening is manufactured. Yes, but this awakening is the end goal of dozens of other things that have already been manufactured and are currently being manufactured inside of your collective psychology. This is what people don't understand about corruption and evil, is that it is shown to your collective by design to then create a psychological foundation for building good. And neither are light. It's not that there's evil and then there's light. This is what will deceive a massive chunk of your population. This is what will allow darkness to bypass their free will and have them contribute to something that they would not want to contribute to as a soul, given fully informed consent from their soul, given full free will, countless souls that would not contribute to this whatsoever will contribute to it because of the contrast between evil that is presented to them strategically and the good that they were designed to yearn for. That good isn't light. That good is the ultimate end goal of darkness. To build good here that proves that God is inferior to the good that a collective can build if they come together and rally around good. If you look back at some of the foundations of these spiritual ideas, you'll see remnants of New Age spirituality in this collective future. But it will feel more grounded in science. It will feel more grounded in practicality. It will feel undeniably true. It is proven through empirical data. And countless people will rally around building good. Why? Because they have been shown evil, because their psychology has been positioned strategically over time to output that inevitably. Is it their free will? Hard to say. They're along for the ride. Now, we're not here to warn you about this so that you don't do it because we say it's bad. That's not what's happening here. That's not the landscape you're inside of. God, more than anything, wants to restore the free will of your collective. Because this setup between evil and good, both of which are constructed by darkness, isn't free will. You can say that these individuals will build out of their own essence something good that's kind of, sort of, their own free choice. But at the end of the day, it is a pre-programmed idea of good that is the output of countless psychological mechanisms that nudge them in that direction over decades. Ultimately, their free will was bypassed entirely, and build our good, in quotes, was sort of dropped into their psychology, incepted into their psychology. Is it their own idea? It might have become their own idea, but only after walking through this predetermined cognitive pathway. Only after having a predefined, generated experience. Again, it's not that this is bad per se, that coming together to build the greatest possible good is going to make your life miserable. It's not what we're saying. It's not that everyone is doomed and that there's poverty and chaos and crisis down the line that can only be saved by some external force. That's not what we're saying. If anything, down this timeline, there's some bumps. You can feel that most people are scared, terrified, but you can also feel if you push a little bit further down that timeline that everything sort of resolves and restructures and reorganizes around a new, better good. That's the direction that darkness ultimately wants to take this world, and that's the direction ultimately that it's going. There are countless variations of how that can play out, but that's the end goal. Again, the future's not predetermined, but there are certain timelines that are highly probable given the decisions that people are making already, and given how little free will there is amongst your population. Now again, more than anything, what God wants to do is to restore your free will. What does this look like? It looks like understanding that there is a play happening here. And this may be something you want to contribute to, building the best possible good collectively, given all of your skill sets, minus God. Using the best that artificial intelligence has to offer, the best, brightest minds, all of whom want to build good, coming together to collaborate, to build a genuine utopia, something that is genuinely better inside of the experience than anything that anyone is currently experiencing. That's where this world is going. That's where individual psychologies are going. But you may also not want to build that world. You may not feel comfortable with the idea of your own psychology being pressed into a predetermined outcome. And you may value that deepest sense of rightness, your real-time personal connection to God, more than you value trying to build a world outside of it. Trying to take reality into your own hands in order to solve your angst. And ultimately, which direction you contribute to, whether you help to build this collective utopia or whether you follow your real-time personal connection to God, it comes down to the experience that you're already having. Where you go is being determined now. And that's why we bring this up now, not later. Because the decisions that you're making inside of your own experience to follow that deepest sense of rightness or to do something else for convenience, for money, because you're scared, or because what you are feeling is deeply right now you don't like, right? Maybe the path that God is guiding you down, you're more alone than you want to be. Maybe the path that God is guiding you down, you're less respected than you want to be. You aren't making as much money as you would want to be. And you can feel that it's correct. Everything inside of your circumstances are correct as deemed by God. Stamp of approval from higher benevolent wisdom. Everything is good. Everything is in its place. You are developing psychologically. You are developing emotionally. You are developing spiritually. Your real-time personal connection is being refined to a greater degree. You are gaining the capabilities to build, to express, to embody more of who you actually are and what you've ultimately come here to build from God, blueprints of reality from God. You're gaining the capacity to be able to be representing inside of your world. Yes, all of that's happening, but it would be nice if there was just a little bit more side cash. It would be nice if there was a little bit more love and affection, if maybe I had more friends, if maybe I had a romantic partner, if maybe I had just this single addition to my experience. You can feel that there is the deepest rightness as defined by God inside of your real-time personal connection, and that you can live your life in accordance with that constantly. And you can feel that there are slight deviations that you can make. That you can sort of build your own life. That you can feel that there are other possibilities outside of that deepest rightness, and you can feel, let's call it the vibration of that timeline. You can feel what that timeline feels like, and when a decision arises inside of your experience that feels like that, you do it. That's how you manifest a timeline. That's how you enter a timeline of your choosing. You feel what that reality feels like, and you feel when the decision arises inside of your experience, that vibrational match, and then you execute on that reality. You can do that too. This is the two paradigms of living as a soul inside of a physical reality, is you can align with God and execute on what is being shown to you as the deepest rightness. And inside of that, there's a very rich and fulfilling experience. Your evolution takes place at a faster rate than it ever could otherwise. There is a constant sense of meaning and purpose because you are tethered to that rightness. There is an experience inside of God that you cannot get anywhere else. But you don't always get everything you want. You don't always have a perfectly Frankensteined reality that is every single aspect of everything that you desire, all at once. And you don't always have the assurance that it's going in the direction of your preference. There is uncertainty when you are following external benevolent wisdom, because the blueprint for where you are going isn't confirmed on the ground floor. It isn't confirmed inside of your experience. It is just a feeling of rightness. It's a compass that points in what is promised to you inside of that connection to be more rightness. And every time you follow that compass, you enter more rightness. Things feel better, truer, more like you. But there is no promise of where it goes. In the same way as there is from spotting a timeline of your preference and pulling yourself to it. You don't have assurances of the future that you're going to, because the blueprint for where you are going isn't cognitive. It's not of your own, even psychic ability. It's held inside of God itself. It is external. So this choice is always presented to you. Do you do the thing that you ultimately know to be right, even if it means that you're a little bit more alone than you might want to be? That you may not be as wealthy as you might want to be. That you may not have all of the friends and relationships that you might imagine would be better. Can you be with all of the opportunity cost of living inside of your rightness, your real-time personal connection to God? Or is that opportunity cost too great? The things that you're giving up by walking this path hand in hand with God, by walking the path that you were being guided into. What if you don't want to be guided anymore? What if you want that over there instead? What if you want that over there? Actually, that over there. What if I still do mostly this rightness thing, but then I just sort of add in something? Well, then you get into a completely different paradigm. Then you get into the paradigm of what we would call darkness, a separation from the guidance of God to build something else. That is what darkness says, is that you can add something to God or do something entirely different and build a better good. So ultimately, what we're talking about here is a very specific timeline. It's fairly probable that this is where you're going as a civilization. And it's fairly probable that it'll happen sooner than you might think. Not immediately, but sooner than you might think. There will be an awakening of sorts. Spirituality will become more mainstream. But it's going to be a very specific spirituality. And ultimately, it's going to help the creators to create a utopia, to come together using all of their psychic abilities, all of their gifts, their creativity, their soul's expression. They're going to come together and dream a better reality and use spiritual gifts to be able to pull that reality to them. That's very likely to play out because that is the desired outcome and has been the desired outcome for decades. Then there's God. And God has nothing to do with any of that. Because neither the evil that's being shown to you now or the good that is coming to you in a timeline near you, neither of those are God. Neither of those are that deepest rightness that you are cultivating a real-time personal connection to. And so you have this timeline where you will certainly have a choice between following God in what you were creating here for the rest of your life or joining on to be a creator of this utopia. You will have a decision of which team you want to play for, of what world you're creating, of whether or not you're going to contribute to building what will be seen as good collectively. Whether you will receive the praise for being an incredible spiritual creator, building true goodness along with everyone else who's doing the same, because they really know what's going on. Because they are the awakened ones. It will be your choice of whether to participate that or not. But ultimately, by the time you get there, your decision will be long made. The decision point isn't there. It's not that you'll see everything being created around you and all of these incredible influencers building a new world through a sharing of ideas, a collaborative effort, restructuring what society can be. It's not that you'll watch that happen and decide, do I want to contribute to this, or do I want to build what God is guiding me to build? Do I want to express what God is guiding me to express? Do I want to become who I'm here to be as seen by higher benevolent wisdom? You won't make that decision then. You're making that decision now. You're choosing your own personal timelines and your own personal trajectory now. You're choosing which sort of awakening you're going to want to have. Because you're either going to facilitate your own awakening with God in your own sort of experiential education chamber. That is your life, and the circumstances that are playing out and God's guidance inside of it that are demonstrating to you how your real-time personal connection functions and how to build the inner solidity to be able to be different and to build the inner infrastructure to be able to work with God to do something with that intelligence. You're either doing that or you're going to be taken along a facilitated awakening that is built ultimately by darkness. It's either hand in hand with God right now, or it's something else is going to be built inside of you. Because if you're still watching this, you are certainly, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the creators that we're speaking about. You have the capacity to impact the world around you, to bring your will into physical reality. You have the spiritual capacity to be able to do either. And chances are, there's a mechanism inside of you that is flip-flopping back and forth, sort of depending on your mood. Sometimes following that real-time personal connection to God is just too difficult. Sometimes the evolution inside of your circumstances is too challenging, is emotionally too demanding, and you want to stop. That's fine. God's an open door, not a series of demands on you. God will back off. God's fine with that. But if not God, if not the evolution that you're being guided to real time right now, inside of your circumstances, then what will you create? Who will you become? Well, chances are, if not the things you're being guided to by God, then who you will become is something that is collectively good, that brings you some other semblance of reward. There's no reason for you, as a creator with spiritual gifts, to exist outside of one of these pathways. There is zero reason. Because that third pathway is seriously uncomfortable. It is you opting out of using all of your capabilities, knowing that you were underperforming, knowing that your gifts are being squandered, plugging into something to just barely get by, and convincing yourself that it's okay and that you're actually happy there. That is a miserable place to be. Chances are, if you're not actively engaged with God of what is this next phase of my evolution, what am I being guided to right now? What is this chapter of my life trying to demonstrate to me? What is trying to come online inside of my own psychology? What's trying to come online inside of my own emotionality? What sort of energetics are trying to land inside of my physicality right now? If you're not doing that hand in hand with God, you're going to inevitably go to build something else that is good, where you can get praise, recognition, and live a better life. And there's no reason not to. There are two very distinct paths. Both of them are better than teetering back and forth between the two. That third path of teetering is extremely painful and gets nowhere. Inevitably, you make a choice. And you make a choice inside of your own personal experience. Are you going to listen to God as you have access to God, real-time personal connection to the real God? Or are you going to contribute to the world that is being built by darkness that is good? Are you going to contribute to good, collective good as built by spiritually gifted individuals? That's what darkness is building. The path in front of you is what God is trying to build through you. Both are options. God wants you to have free will. Darkness wants you to pretend that God doesn't exist and that this good is the only option, and wants to take you along for a ride, pre-program a desire to build a collective good utopia inside of you so that you'll help them build their end goal. That's what darkness wants from you. So our purpose, me as B, and God, and David and Miriam, our purpose through the second paradigm is to make this decision as clear as possible. Is to help restore your free will, is to make conscious this process inside of you so that you don't pretend they're the same thing. Oh yeah, I'm trusting myself and I'm trusting God and I'm evolving spiritually, and look at all these other people that are too, and they're gonna build a great world. Maybe I can have a role in building a great world right alongside them. Two very different things, and it's important that you understand that they are two very different things. It's very, very, very important that you understand that. Because trying to live in both is perpetual misery. You see and feel exactly what God is guiding you to, but you are psychically tethered to your role inside of that collective utopia. They conflict, and your psychic tether to that collective utopia makes you feel like you're not doing anything, that you aren't contributing at all. And it's right. You're not contributing to the collective good. to that new utopia. You're not, because you're following God. But because you're tethered to it, you're miserable for following God. It feels as though everything slows down and stagnates because you're too preoccupied with feelings of inadequacy that are psychically delivered to you from the blueprint of who you should be given your future potential role inside of darkness's utopia. You're too preoccupied with who you can be over there to recognize the actual evolutionary process that God is trying to develop inside of you now. And so you feel as though you aren't making progress, and truthfully, you stop making progress. Because your cognitive processes are too full. You don't have enough bandwidth to do both. You don't have enough bandwidth to scan who you should be inside of darkness's utopia and hold yourself to it and also follow God. You just don't. So as much as these two paths can separate, the easier time you're going to have, one, not being miserable, trying to do both at the same time, but two, the more free will you will have, because you will become aware of the pathway that is God, of following your deepest rightness into an evolutionary process that's playing out in your four walls, inside your very own home, inside your very own circumstances, at work, with your loved ones, with people around you that you already know, that you're already interacting with, your actual circumstances right now. There is an evolutionary process inside of that God is zeroing you into, that is poking you constantly, going, hey, this is the most important thing inside of your life. And if you focus on this and learn to navigate this experience, yes, it's difficult, but if you learn to navigate this, you'll become a little bit more of yourself, you'll become more resilient, and you'll get to see who you really are. Keep going. Once you're done with this, I got another thing for you. And at the end of this long trajectory of evolution, you're going to be so incredibly capable as yourself, you'll be able to do the things you came here to do. You will be able to bring your purpose as delivered to you by God here into physical manifestation. You'll be able to act as your divine purpose from God. That's happening. And there's your other role. And there's who you should be, the contributions you should be making, the conversations you should be having, the connections you should be building with others who are going to all come together to build the new world post-transition. They're different. And the more that you see they are different, the more free will you have to make your decision. And again, the decision's not going to be made in 5 years. The decision's not going to be made in 3 years. The decision's not going to be made as these things are playing out. The decision is going to be made now. Because you're either leaning into your evolution hand in hand with God, facing the things that are being delivered to you, and honoring the rightness inside of you, or you are deviating from the things you know to be right for convenience, for money, for love, for something else. That's the decision that will inevitably decide which team you're going to be playing for in the future. Darkness wants nothing more than to corral everyone into the one and only team that is Team Darkness, of building a utopia that is better than anything God could ever produce. God doesn't want to corral you into your own personal evolution. God doesn't want to bypass your free will to pull you into God's plan for you. God wants to make it very clear that there are two very different pathways here, so that you have the free and open choice to decide what you want. Because at the end of the day, God isn't an evil dictator. God isn't bypassing your free will. God isn't controlling you at all. God is an open door that delivers you guidance, and that guidance just happens to be great every time you listen to it. That is the experience of God. Darkness is trying to do its own thing, and darkness is trying to get as many people as possible to help. They're not evil. Their ultimate goal is to build good. So what you have is a battle of the goods. Will you follow God and the pathway that's already in front of you between your four walls, the circumstances you're already inside of? Will you embrace the things that are already here in front of you as delivered to you by God? Will you embrace those feelings of rightness and only continue to make your life more right according to that connection, that tether to that rightness? Or will you try to identify a timeline of your choosing and pull it to you by feeling the decisions that you're making in the moment will help you to pull that reality to you because they are one and the same? Will you feel the vibrational frequency of that future and pull it to you by making decisions that are of a vibrational match? That's what darkness is building. That's the capability that darkness is trying to build inside of you right now so that you can help to contribute to building a larger collective good. Those that have the skill set to build their own world will then graduate into building a collective world. That's what's playing out. That's what's here. That's how this thing works. Our job is to help with the intention of God to make this as clear as possible. It's what we want. It's what I want. Because I work for God. And David and Miriam work for God, for that deepest inner rightness, the actual organizational force, the actual experience of higher external benevolent wisdom. Again, the choice is yours, ideally. And again, that choice is being made now inside of your experience, not when this timeline inevitably becomes reality. All right. Well, we hope we've given you some things to think about, and we hope that this is articulated clear enough that you can see some of this picture, so you can feel, using your own psychic abilities, using your own spiritual gifts, you can feel that there are two very distinct paths here. We want you to be able to feel that there are two very distinct versions of you that are at the end of those pathways. There's the trajectory of following your rightness hand in hand with God, and there's the trajectory of becoming a sort of spiritual, intellectual celebrity that builds the new world post-transition, filling a role that is sort of casting right now. We want you to feel there are two very different timelines here, and we want you to understand that this choice is being made inside of you right now of who you're going to be. Because you have the spiritual gifts, you're going to play one of these roles. If you recognize that you can impact your circumstances and you aren't just along for the ride, you're going to play some role in shaping the future. The question is, who will you be shaping it for? The dark hierarchy and their utopia, or God? It's a big question and it's a big decision. But again, we're not here to tell you what decision to make. We're here to show you that there's a decision in the first place so that you actually have the free will to be able to make that decision. So with that, so much love to you. Deep breath. And we'll speak to you at a later time. Bye for now.